I'm Angus Hervey. I'm a journalist and an economist, and I hope you don't mind if I start with an obvious metaphor. Imagine sailing through stormy seas. The waves are crashing over your bow, visibility's low, there's no land in sight. I think that's how many of us are feeling halfway through the ocean decade, caught in the messy middle. In all fairness, it was never going to be easy. Global warming and climate change aside, understanding the sheer complexity of ocean ecosystems and their interaction with human systems requires cutting-edge technology, breakthroughs in science, vast resources, and most challenging of all, immense global cooperation. And that, quite obviously, is a lot harder in the world we find ourselves in today. Over the past few months, serious new headwinds have swept in, upping the stakes with political and economic upheaval. And what makes it hurt more is that it all started so well. It seems like ancient history now, but it was only 2 years ago that after decades of failed negotiations, nearly 200 countries reached a landmark deal with the High Seas Treaty, the first international agreement on ocean protection since 1982. That deal spurred a groundswell of support, boosting the blue economy and generating renewed interest in financial instruments like blue bonds and debt for nature swaps. The momentum continued at events like the Our Ocean Conference and COP, which saw billions of dollars over the last few years in new commitments for protecting marine ecosystems and sustainably managing crucial ocean resources. But now, it's 2025. We've officially hit the midpoint and it feels like progress has stalled and perhaps might even be going into reverse. Multilateralism is under attack. Some of the world's leading scientific institutions are being dismantled, and if you've been reading the news, well, you'll know that things feel pretty dark right now. Here's the thing though. The middle of any journey is always the toughest stretch, the point in the story when optimism fades, when challenges start seeming insurmountable, and resources feel like they're stretched too thin. But if I've learned anything from over a decade of reporting on ocean conservation and ocean tech, it's this. People find a way forward. And protecting our oceans isn't just ecological, it's about people. It's about safeguarding our shared heritage, securing food and livelihoods, and supporting the countless coastal communities worldwide whose fates are just so deeply intertwined with healthy oceans. And what I'd like to share with you is that despite challenges in the last 12 months, people have kept on pulling off the unexpected. Countries have continued to protect their waters and coastlines. Over the past year, the Azores created Europe's largest marine protected area, covering over 280,000 square kilometers. Spain and Israel announced their first national marine parks in Ireland. Puerto Rico and Peru safeguarded crucial ocean biodiversity hotspots. 6 countries collaborated to establish over 10,000 square kilometers of marine refuges in the South China Sea. And earlier this year, 2025, the Marshall Islands created a sanctuary spanning 48,000 square kilometers. We also know now that these protected areas work. A groundbreaking recent study by the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, the first ever to look at MPAs on a global scale, confirmed that protected areas significantly boost fish populations, benefiting recreational fisheries and local economies worldwide. Almost every MPA worldwide demonstrates these positive spillover effects regardless of size. But the study did also show it takes around 20 years for that effect to show up. In other words, effective ocean conservation requires patience and sustained commitment. Encouragingly, we're also starting to see better enforcement. Multiple lawsuits across Europe are now turning paper parks into true sanctuaries. Recent legal victories in the UK, for example, resulted in a near total elimination of bottom trawling, and similar lawsuits in 5 other countries are gaining momentum. And we're also, finally, starting to see a rising tide of indigenous-led ocean conservation. Canada recently designated its first indigenous and last year, California's Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary became the first tribally nominated marine conservation area in the United States. Stories of the last 12 months is that global sea turtle populations are increasing. Conservation efforts in parts of the world cracking down on illegal fishing is also paying off. Fish species on the US overfishing list, for example, have hit an all-time low, and fishing mortality rates across the Mediterranean and Black Seas have plummeted to historic lows. Populations of Pacific bluefin tuna have recovered a decade early, and southern bluefin tuna is no longer threatened. Technology and innovation play an important role here too. Just last week I came across the story of Whale Spotter, which is a new AI-powered whale detection system that sits on ferries, research vessels and cruise ships. It operates along the east and west coasts of North America, as well as in parts of the Southern Ocean. Across its more than 24 ship and land-based installations, the global whale spotter network made more than 51,000 marine mammal detections last year, up from 78 in its first year, 2019. Currently it only operates on medium to smaller sized vessels, and so now they're working on a system for container ships, which are one of the leading causes of death for large whales. To give these massive ships more time to maneuver, the whale spotter team has improved the technology to be able to reliably spot marine mammals up to 6 kilometers away. There's still a long way to go until their cameras are installed on enough of these large ships, but the team is reporting encouraging early signs of success. And for me, that initiative, that team, is a reminder that despite all the challenges, there are still so many people around the world working on these and a myriad of other ocean-related challenges. Knowing that doesn't erase the difficulties ahead. Cooperation isn't going to get easier in a multipolar world, and funding is going to get harder to access. But it's also worth reminding ourselves of what's possible. We have tangible proof of what happens when we work together, when people innovate and persist. And today, you're in the room, online, with a few hundred people who are also the spear tip of those efforts. You are all writing this story together. So here, in the messy middle, it might not always be possible to see the horizon, but together, you're still charting the course. So keep your hands steady on the wheel, your eyes on the stars, and I hope you have a great conference.